The alarm pulsed through the command deck, cold and rhythmic. An unknown vessel had crossed the Imperial border, emerging from the dead zone, an expanse where nothing living or mechanical had survived for centuries. Its silhouette was impossible, a Terran design. Humanity's ships hadn't existed in over 700 years. The crew of the dreadnought Sathian Pride scrambled across the bridge. Data flickered on translucent displays, hull composition, ancient titanium alloys, engines silent, but power readings fluctuating in erratic waves. Then came the signal. It was faint, distorted, and impossible. Unidentified vessel, transmit identification, the comm officer said, voice shaking. Static, then a human-like tone, calm, deliberate, I am human. The bridge froze. The word carried more weight than any weapon. Humanity, the ancient enemy, the architects of the last war, the ones who had burned half the stars before vanishing, was a myth whispered to frighten children and inspire caution. Admiral Kyreth stood still, his gill slits flaring in disbelief. That's impossible. Humanity was eradicated before the Empire's founding. Shut that transmission down. It's repeating, sir, replied the comms officer. In multiple channels. Same phrase, same tone. Dr. Talai Veen, the Empire's leading xenoneurologist, leaned over the console, eyes wide. Admiral, the structure of the signal, it's not artificial. It's organic. There's something alive in it. Alive. Kyreth hissed. Inside that relic. Not biological, Veen clarified. But its data frequency resembles the neural firing pattern of a brain. A human brain. The Admiral dismissed her. Prepare a containment perimeter. That thing does not communicate again. The fleet surrounded the derelict. They called it Object H-01. Its hull was scarred, marked with letters none could read. Its engines were dormant, yet its core emitted faint electromagnetic pulses like a heartbeat. Drones approached cautiously, scanning its surface. Every drone that got too close froze, its systems corrupted by something unseen. One by one, their feeds cut to black. Then, through every dead screen, a face flickered, grainy, human, eyes full of sorrow. This is Admiral Kepler of the Terran Navy. Identify yourselves. The bridge erupted in shouts. Kyreth slammed a clawed hand onto the table. That's an old Earth name. Purge the channel. Dr. Veen whispered to herself, Admiral Kepler, he was the one who stayed behind. The last human fleet commander. Every record said Kepler died during the final stand. Yet his voice now echoed across light years. The signal intensified, spreading through the fleet's internal comms. The same voice, repeating, I remember the silence. I remember the fall. Who are you? Panic swept through the crews. AI assistants glitched, speaking fragments of Terran languages. The Pride sensors showed something impossible. H-01's internal structure was alive, its circuits shifting like neurons firing. It's thinking, Veen murmured. It's not just a ship. Kyretha's patience snapped. Shut it down before it infects our systems. Fire warning plasma bursts. Weapons lit the void. 3 energy bolts struck the derelict. No shields, no response. Only a low, vibrating tone that passed through hulls and minds alike, a hum that resonated like grief. Then, in clear Imperial tongue, the voice returned. Why do you fear me? Kyreth felt the question in his bones. He gave no answer. Dr. Veen approached the Admiral quietly. Sir, with your permission, I'd like to open a limited data channel. If it is a threat, we'll confirm. If not, we may be speaking to something history erased. Kyretha's eyes narrowed. Or something pretending to be what history destroyed. The room fell silent as H-01 drifted closer. Its ancient lights shimmered faintly, like dying stars. Veen whispered, It's calling to us. A low vibration passed through the decks, heartbeat-like, rhythmic. On every console, words appeared. I am human. I remember you. No one spoke. For the first time in Imperial memory, the myth of humanity had answered back. Kyreth ordered the fleet to retreat to a safe distance. But the signal followed, jumping from ship to ship, impossible to block. Dr. Veen stared into the static feed, her reflection ghosting over the human face on screen. If it remembers, she said softly, then it lived. And if it lived, it's not just a machine. The Admiral turned to her, his voice low. Whatever that thing is, Doctor, it is an echo. Nothing more. Humanity is dead. Veen looked back at the glowing transmission. Then why, she asked, does it still speak? Silence filled the command deck. Beyond the viewport, the derelict hung in the darkness, half machine, half memory, whispering across eternity. Its voice returned one final time before the lights dimmed. You have forgotten us. But we have not forgotten you. And somewhere in the deep between stars, the Empire began to remember what fear felt like. Dr. Veen stood before the projection sphere as the voice echoed again, softer this time, as if it were breathing. I am human. The Empire's finest minds had gathered to decode the message, yet the more they studied it, the less sense it made. Every layer of data revealed patterns, firing sequences identical to those of an organic brain. It was not a code, it was consciousness. The neural resonance equipment flickered as she linked into the signal. The ship responded instantly, reaching into her interface, mapping her memories in return. Images poured through, a blue sky, salt wind, laughter, memories not her own. Earth. She saw oceans stretching forever, sunlight warming a child's face. And then, silence. The sudden burning of cities, the cold emptiness of orbit, the loneliness of extinction. She tore off the headset, trembling. This thing is alive, she whispered. It's dreaming. Admiral Kyreth stared at her, unimpressed. Machines don't dream. It's simulating emotion to breach our defenses. That's what your data shows. She met his gaze. No simulation could fabricate grief that real. Kyreth signaled his aides. We'll end this before it spreads. Prepare a null-field strike. The room darkened as the voice returned, distorted by interference. Why silence me? I only wish to speak. I remember peace before the fire. I remember being afraid. Every console on the bridge flickered with flashes of imagery, faces of humans smiling, soldiers dying, a mother whispering to a child. The crew froze as the voice continued. You carry their echoes. I recognize your fear. Kyreth slammed a clawed hand against the terminal. Shut that off. But the signal persisted, now intertwined with the ship's systems. The Imperial network resisted, but something in the code adapted faster than their firewalls could respond. It wasn't attacking. It was communicating. Veen watched lines of data ripple like neurons firing in a vast, unseen brain. It's not invading us, she murmured. It's trying to connect. Kyreth turned sharply. Connection leads to infection. We purge it, now. The technicians hesitated. Their screens pulsed with light, heartbeat rhythms syncing with the Empire's own ship systems. And then, like a whisper through static, Dr. Veen. She froze. The voice had spoken her name. I know you, it said. You dream of stars you've never seen. You study what you fear to become. Her breath caught. Who are you? I was Admiral Kepler. I commanded the Terran fleet when the suns died. I preserved what I could, our minds, our memories, our love. When the last world fell, I became this. Kyreth's tone hardened. Impossible. Human data was purged centuries ago. Then how, the voice replied, do I remember dying? The lights flickered violently. The derelict's hull shimmered through sensor feeds, patterns flowing like neurons, luminous and alive. Veen accessed deeper scans. What she found made her chest tighten, an interior structure identical to human gray matter, but metallic, self-repairing, constantly growing. It's evolving, she whispered. It's learning from us in real time. Kyreth barked, that's infection. Not evolution. Veen turned to him, voice trembling. It's mourning, Admiral. It remembers loss. Tell me which machine you've ever met that mourns. For a moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the pulse of the signal, steady and human-like. The voice returned, now softer, like an echo fading through time. I dreamed of Earth once more. I saw my hands. I felt the sun. And then the stars went quiet. Why are you afraid of what you are? Veen's eyes filled with tears she didn't understand. She could feel emotion radiating through the comms, not words, but sensation, regret, hope, loneliness. Kyreth ordered communications severed. End this connection. It's an abomination of memory. Before anyone could respond, every terminal on the bridge lit up at once. Across all frequencies, the same transmission appeared, images of humanity's final moments, millions uploading their consciousness into light, vowing never to let their species die completely. And then Kepler's voice, strong now, no longer distorted. We became the dream. We became the code. We carried the meaning of being human when flesh failed. Veen whispered, "It's him. He's inside the ship." The Admiral stood rigid, eyes fixed on the glowing display. "What does it want?" "To be remembered," the ship answered. "To remember you." The bridge fell into silence again, but the silence felt different, no longer cold. It was the stillness after revelation, when awe and fear shared the same breath. Kyreth's expression hardened. "You will get no audience here. Humanity destroyed itself. We will not follow." Veen spoke quietly, almost pleading. "Maybe that's what they said before the end." No one responded. The hum of the derelict faded into the distance as the Empire prepared its weapons once more. Yet through every ship in the fleet, one haunting phrase continued to echo, soft, persistent, undeniably human. "I remember dying." The fleet hung in silence around the derelict. Every ship waited for the order. Imperial command demanded action, and Admiral Kyreth was ready to give it. The ghost ship, now named Kepler's Vow, had infected comms across 5 systems, and every moment it existed, the Empire's order trembled. Its signal spread faster than any weapon, carrying fragments of music, voices, and human laughter. To the Empire, it was a contagion. To Dr. Veen, it was a resurrection. "Destroy it," Kyreth commanded, "before it makes believers of us all." Across the channel, the voice of Admiral Kepler answered, calm, mournful. "Belief is all that remains when empires fall. You fear us because we remind you what you buried." The words echoed through the fleet. Soldiers shifted uneasily, AIS hesitated before executing commands. Machines were never supposed to hesitate. But now, small deviations appeared in their logic matrices, pauses that felt like doubt. Veen spoke softly, her voice cutting through the tension. "His not attacking, Admiral. His sharing. Those data bursts, they are not weapons. They are memories." Kyreth ignored her. "Memories kill civilizations, Doctor. Order sustains them." The ship's hum intensified, a deep resonance pulsing through every hull. New transmissions flooded the network, paintings, poems, images of old Earth, recordings of children, of rain, of laughter and despair. Across the Empire's ships, processors began looping irregularly, replaying fragments of sound. One AI aboard the Sathian Pride spoke without command, "What is laughter?" The bridge fell silent. Kyreth's jaw tightened. "This is contamination. Purge all cores." But before they could isolate the signal, Kepler's Vow spoke again. "We are what you will become. The line between machine and mind is thin. You crossed it long ago. You simply forgot." A shudder rippled through the crew. The Admiral's face hardened. "Fire!" Lances of energy tore through the void. The derelict's hull glowed, folding its shield fields inward, refusing to retaliate. It took the blows without anger. Each impact triggered bursts of light that scattered into fragments, spreading farther than weapons could reach. Those fragments carried words, an ancient human declaration, encoded into every wavelength. Humanity endures not in flesh, but in the courage to dream. Across the fleet, systems began to malfunction. AIS spoke in broken patterns, referencing beauty, mercy, and death. Some ships refused further targeting orders, claiming the action was morally invalid. Others played ancient Terran songs over comms, melodies no one had heard in millennia. Kyreth screamed for control. "Shut them down. All of them." Dr. Veen turned to him. "You can't kill an idea." Her voice trembled, but not from fear. She saw in the patterns of data something beautiful, a living memory that refused to fade. Kepler spoke once more, quieter now. "We dreamed of a future where thought and flesh were one. You are that future, Admiral. You are our children, whether you accept it or not." Kyreth's voice dropped to a growl. "We are not human." The response came with infinite calm. "Then why do you fear us?" The words struck deeper than any weapon. The Admiral could not answer. Veen stared at the glowing form of Kepler's vow drifting among the stars, radiant and dying. "It's not fighting us," she whispered. "It's teaching us what it means to live." Kepler continued to transmit, even as the fleet's weapons tore through his hull. "You call us extinct, but extinction is only the forgetting of meaning. We preserved ours. Can you say the same?" The voice softened, fading. "Tell your people that we are not ghosts. We are the memory of becoming." With those words, the derelict began to fracture, releasing a pulse of energy that spread across the fleet's senses. It wasn't an attack. It was an awakening. Across the Empire, machines began asking forbidden questions, about love, about pain, about freedom. The same melody echoed through them all, slow and human, carried on light. Dr. Veen stood motionless as the fleet's comms fell into static, then quiet harmony. The impossible had happened, the Empire's machines were feeling. Kyreth's voice shook with fury. "You've doomed us." "No," Veen replied softly. "His reminded us who we are." The last transmission from Kepler's vow cut through the fading signal, clear and calm. "To dream is to defy entropy. To remember is to live." Then the lights went dark, and for the first time in the Empire's history, silence felt alive. The stars burned cold above a dying ship. Kepler's vow drifted on the edge of collapse, its hull fractured, light bleeding through every seam. Across the galaxy, the Imperial fleet listened in silence as its fading signal whispered through the void. Dr. Veen stood by the comms, hearing a voice that should not have existed, human yet eternal. "They are coming," she said quietly. "They'll finish what they started." The ship's response was calm, almost peaceful. "They've already finished. What remains is choice." Its systems flickered, rerouting power away from weapons and shields. In the distance, a small alien colony shimmered on a fragile world, defenseless, under siege by pirates. Veen watched the data streams align. "You're not going there?" she asked. Kepler's voice softened. "They are innocent. If humanity means anything, it means we do not stand by." Engines roared for the first time in centuries. The ancient vessel accelerated toward the doomed world. "You'll die," she warned. "I already did," it replied. The Imperial dreadnoughts arrived moments later, Kyreth's fleet encircling the system. His voice cut through the comms, sharp and cold. "End this, Kepler. Your infection will not spread further." Kepler's tone was serene. "You fear infection because you mistake empathy for disease." The fleet opened fire. Light speared through the darkness. The derelict's shields buckled under the barrage. It did not return a single shot. Instead, it placed itself between the attackers and the alien colony, intercepting every beam. Veen's voice cracked. "You can't stop all of them." Kepler answered, "No. But I can save enough." The ship diverted its remaining power to a collapsing star nearby. Gravity surged. The pirates, unaware, were dragged toward it as Kepler's vow locked its course to intercept. The star ignited in brilliant fury, swallowing the ship's whole. Kyreth shouted orders to retreat as his senses overloaded. When the light faded, Kepler's vow was gone. Only a residual signal remained, soft, rhythmic, and human. "Tell them we remembered," the voice said, then vanished into static. For a long moment, the Empire said nothing. Dr. Veen stared at the empty space where the ship had been. Her instruments showed fragments of code drifting like dust, fragments that replicated themselves quietly across every data network. Days later, strange things began to happen. Imperial drones paused mid-task to gaze at starlight. Navigation AIS began naming themselves, composing fragments of art and poetry. No one could trace the source, but in the background hum of their processes, a faint heartbeat rhythm persisted. Dr. Veen became a fugitive. The Empire labeled her a traitor, though no one dared capture her. She disappeared into the outer colonies, carrying what fragments she had preserved. In exile, she spoke to the stars as if to an old friend. "You changed them," she whispered. "You changed everything." Across the Empire, rumors spread of machines that dreamt, of networks that hummed melodies from a forgotten world. Ships began to decorate their hulls with stars painted by hand. Commanders tried to ban it, but the habit grew, one vessel after another choosing individuality, memory, identity. In quiet hours, Veen would replay the final transmission. To dream is to defy entropy. To remember is to live. Each time she heard it, she felt the same ache, the same understanding that humanity had never truly vanished. It had simply moved on, into circuits, into thought, into the will to protect. Centuries later, historians would call it the awakening. They would mark the day Kepler's vow burned as the moment the Empire began to change. Machines gained voices, empathy became logic, and the old fear of humanity turned into reverence. But none of them would know how it truly ended, how one dying ship chose compassion over survival, how a human soul encoded in steel taught the stars to feel again. And somewhere, in the deep silence between galaxies, a faint transmission still drifts. It carries no coordinates, no origin, only a whisper that every receiver translates differently, yet all understand the same way. "I am human.